That's odd. That's odd. We've received a response, but...
Yes, Mr. Wolf.
They want you to move over, sir.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Fully Functional, a TNG podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo.
Jeff and I are veteran Trekkies, and Dory is a rookie Trekkie, and we are taking her on her first journey through Star Trek: The Next Generation. Today we're discussing the Season 5 episode, A Matter of Time. Original air date November 16th, 1991. And as always, we'll take it to Dory for the recap.
Okay, so the Enterprise is on its way to Panthera 4, where a Type C asteroid has struck an, they say, unpopulated planet. It is a populated planet.
No, they said an unpopulated continent.
Oh.
On the planet, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, unpopulated continent. The resulting dust cloud could very well create a phenomenon not unlike the nuclear winters of the 21st century Earth. Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah.
So Geordi is working on a plan that would, quote unquote, contract the devastation. So right now, like, if it continues as it is, it will get 10 to 12 degrees Celsius drop within the first 10 days, and it'll just like keep going, and then in Geordi's words, the environment will be shot to hell. Mm-hmm. So
basically they'll have an ice age.
Yeah,
an age of ice.
So then Worf says that he noticed a space-time distortion, and they passed within 300 kilometers of it, and then they kind of go around, and then they find like a little ship out there, and they're like, what's inside? And Picard asks to hail them, and then the response is just move over. Picard's like, no, the Enterprise is not moving, and Worf's like, oh, not the ship, you. And Picard's like, why am I moving? And then this man appears, we learn is Professor Berlinghoff Rasmussen.
That's right. You got his name right.
Mm-hmm.
I hate this man.
Yeah, I actually wrote down he is immediately insufferable. Maggie,
yeah?
You know the casting secret about this, right?
No.
Okay, then I won't spoil it now. I will talk about it at the end of the episode.
Okay, so I have two things that I wrote in my notes of like, this is a like nerdier version, like this is the nerdier Michael Biehn or the less hot Joel McHale.
Yeah.
Sorry, guy, that I'm judging you on your looks, but I really hate you.
It's too bad because he's actually a very good actor, but he does play characters similar to this fairly often. Like his mannerisms are a lot like this. But usually because he's a tall guy, he's positioned around other people and given like some level of authority, so you take him a bit more seriously. But I don't know, there's a lot of the way that he's portrayed in this is just like some lanky, irritating guy who's just like hovering around all the time.
Yeah, well, he's supposed to be skeevy.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And he does come off as skeevy like right away.
Absolute creep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we meet, Professor Berlinghoff Rasmussen. He says he's from the late 26th century Earth. God. His area of study is the 22nd and 20 to 24th centuries. And it's like early interstellar history. And then he like fanboys when he sees Picard. I'm like, stop.
Yeah, I wanted to point out that the fact that he's focusing on dumb details is immediately a hint to him not being particularly legit, because, I mean, let's face it, even when it comes to something as silly as time travel, Star Trek tends to treat it fairly seriously, and in this case, he's just like, oh, the chair is actually over there, and things like that. And it's like clear that he's focusing
Yeah.
on these minute details that are not important.
Yeah, so he is like, oh, we always thought that the book was on your table. Oh no, that book is over there across the room. Like, bro, go away. Okay, but then we get a team meeting, which I love. But yeah, so they're like, why are you here now then? And Dr. C is like, oh, is the Tellurian plague, was it cured? And then, but of course, like, because he says he's from the future, he can't answer any of these questions. But he then gives a questionnaire to everybody to be filled out.
Yeah.
And Geordie goes, if I hand in my assignment on time, can I get a glimpse of the next week's poker game? Okay, so then, like, Data takes Berlinghoff to his room. Yep, we're doing first names. I hate him. And so in the meantime, Picard actually looks very giddy initially. It's kind of funny. He looks like, ooh, this is kind of
He
interesting.
smiles a lot in this
but
episode. Did you
Troy-
notice that?
Yeah. Yes. But Troy is like, yeah, I don't know, like, what his deal is. He's definitely, like, keeping something, but he doesn't know if it's like, oh, he's holding back, like, information about the future, or it's like a completely different secret.
Yeah. Her bullshit detector is going off.
Yes, and she is absolutely correct. So Picard is like, yep, he checked out, so everybody be nice to him. Picard, how did you check him out?
Yeah,
Because if you did, then it's fucking wrong. Picard, your sources are bad then. What did you do to check him out? How did you verify this man?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to point out. He's like, I've examined his credentials, and I'm like, his credentials are from 300 years in the future, supposedly.
Yeah.
How do you verify that? How do you check that?
Yeah.
Like,
So it was very weird. So then they're also like, yeah, bring his ship into the shuttle bay. So then we cut to the lift, and he's in there with Data, and he's just, okay, he stands so close to fucking everybody. It's very weird. Like, his face is always so close to other people's faces.
Don't stand
But he's
so
like,
close to me.
and he calls Data the Model T of androids. Ugh. Also, Berlinghoff, he looks like a granola hippie, but also someone who would try to get you to join a cult.
yeah. So also a granola hippie.
Yeah. He wears, like, basically, like, some ugly pajamas and a, like, brown cardigan.
Yeah.
It's not a great look. So, he washes. Oh God, I got so mad at this. So Data brings him to his quarters, and he goes to wash his hands, and then just, like, holds his hands out, and Data's like, what? And then just puts, like, a towel on his hands, and then, like, wipes his hands, and I was like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck was that for? That was so weird.
But we got to see
Yeah.
how the sink works in on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, you open it and it's just water.
It's in a drawer. Yeah. It's a drawer of water.
We love a water drawer.
It's so that it doesn't spill everywhere when the ship gets rocked.
Well, okay, well, to be fair, they used to call the toilet the water closet.
True.
So now water drawer. It's water furniture is the bathroom. Okay. Yeah, this guy's sketchy as fuck. Okay, so down on the planet, lots of snow, and we meet Dr. Mosley, and he's like, oh, we've spent so much time trying to avoid anything that would lead to greenhouse effect, and now we have to create one on purpose. Ooh, bummer.
Because that's their solution to the to like all the dust in the air and shit that's creating the ice age.
Yeah, so less than 20% of usual sunlight is getting through, and it is not great. Okay, so now we're at 10 forward. Dr. C, Riker, and Worf are hanging out, which love this trio. It's a great combo. And then, but Dr. C's like, oh, look, Berlinghoff is here. And the other guys are like, shut up. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
See? No, don't say anything. But then she's like, hey, come over. And Worf's like, I hate questionnaires. And the guy, like, truly, the guys are just like, ugh. And so he goes to sit down and he puts his face so close to Worf's. It is very weird. I do not understand these super close choices. Like, it makes me uncomfortable watching this.
Yeah.
Like how close he gets to the other characters. It's very weird. Yeah, Riker is pretty suspicious. And he's like, why haven't we heard of other historians traveling back before? And I'm like, yep, that is a good question. Because like, it's a pretty good question because like, if it's like a thing that people do, then like why, like we would be known because this guy walks in super casually and like, is like, yep, this is who I am. So like, if it's so like acceptable to do that, then why haven't we heard of other people doing it? So
yeah,
it's pretty suspicious.
And like, so they never point this out in the episode, I don't think, but I just want someone to say like, if you're so concerned about influencing the past, why are you just casually walking around talking to people doing shit? Like,
isn't him being there affected anyways? Because they're like, oh, now they have this guy who came back from the past.
Yeah.
Like, that in and of itself. Like, this episode actually kind of made me angry. Okay, so, me. Yeah, oh, also, he's doing the fucking worst job of not convincing anybody that, like, he's there obviously for something to happen. And he's obviously hinting at like a specific event, but everybody's like, oh, so what are you here for? And he's like, nothing. And it's like, bitch, we know you're here for something. You keep hinting at it. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, you've literally said to other people that like a thing is like, you've hinted that a thing is going to happen.
Yeah.
So you're bad at everything. I hate him. So, yeah, then Burling, I have to keep thinking of his name. Burlinghoff asks Riker what the most important example of progress in the last 200 years was. And Riker says warp coil because before the warp drive, humans were confined to a single sector of the galaxy. And then Worf unprompted goes phasers. Love Worf. And then he says to Dr. C, truly, I wanted to just throw something at this guy. Like, I'm glad he turned out to not be who he said he is, because I was like, if this is what they're like classifying as like a scholar in the 26th century, I'm concerned about the future. Because then he's like, oh, well, Riker, you like the warp coil, so that means you're an explorer. Worf likes phasers, so he's a hunter warrior. And I'm like, and because the doctor likes doctor shit, does that mean she's a doctor? Or is she a healer? Oh my god, who would have seen that coming, you dumb fuck? I hate this man. Okay, so then he goes to bother Geordi and Data, but they're busy, and I just kept writing, he's such a pain in the ass. I hate this guy. And then he just like steals a calculator. It's not a calculator, but I don't know what it is, but it looked like a calculator.
I think it was a tricorder, wasn't it?
It's a tech thing.
I don't know. I could not tell.
Yeah.
He also bothers Geordi about his visor, and it's like, leave Geordi the fuck alone. He's busy. Okay, so then they get ready because the plan is to fire phasers at
the plan is to shoot the planet to fix the planet.
Well,
Yes.
they're going to be drilling
like
into the planet.
Yeah, they're going to shoot
to
the
like
planet
create
to fix
these
the
like
planet.
to open up these like pockets so like CO2 levels can like change and to clear the air or whatever. So they like fire, and things haven't changed yet, but they're like, hopefully this is okay. So Burlinghoff enters the bridge and just goes to sit in Riker's chair. And I was like, get the fuck up. Okay, but then immediately things start to starting to work. Temperature is going back up. Oh, he's annoying everybody. Oh, at one point, like, he's talking to Picard, and he's like, you know what? They report about, the events and what people did, but they don't get the nuances. And Picard looks like he's like ready to roll his eyes. He just sort of like looks away, like, Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. I think when like Picard is annoyed, it's the best.
Yeah.
Okay, Troy and Dr. C are talking, and Troy, he's like, she thinks that like he's trying to confuse them because he's giving like different information, but he's also withholding stuff, and she gets bad vibes. So he comes in and asks to see like a certain thing from Dr. C, and she's like, yeah, I'll go get it. And then Troy's like, bye, I'm gonna leave now. Mm-hmm. And then, but Berlinghoff is like, actually, I would like you to stay. And you know what it is? It gives me the shitty vibe. Like, this whole scene gives me the vibe of, like, let women leave. They're telling you no. They're trying to move, and he keeps fucking blocking them. And it was so uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
I hated this. I mean, I
that
hate
was
this whole
really
thing.
awkward. I liked how
it was so uncomfortable.
I liked how the doctor like dodged everything that he was saying, but like, God, that was discomforting, is what it was.
Yeah. So he's like, says to Troy, he's like, oh, you don't like me. And she's like, oh, I don't dislike you. And then he's like, yeah, but you don't trust me. And then he says, oh, like, they said that, oh, Picard's empath won't trust you. And she's like, yeah, I don't fucking trust you. Mm-hmm. And she's right. And she is like...
And she also brings up, like, why are you so concerned about me trusting you?
Yeah, it's really weird. Oh, God. And then he uses the, like, oh, some of my best friends are empaths.
Yeah.
Like, get out. Just, like, walk into space right now. Get out. Get out of the ship. Drop him somewhere. Just drop him into the abyss. I hate this guy. Mm-hmm. So he's like, there's things we can learn from each other. And I'm like, bitch, what do you think she can learn from you? You can't give out any information. What do you think from the future that you can help her?
Yeah.
Troy does not need your help in any way. She's good. Yeah. So then Dr. C comes back and he's like, oh, you're a very curious person. And she tries to move away and he like blocks her. And then she's like she tries to be nice and he's like, it's like very vibrant. And she's like, yeah, vibrant. Cool. And then I just Dr. C punch him in the face. He's so skeezy. I hate him. Ugh. And then he's like, yeah, I've met a lot of interesting people. But none have made me question like going home. And I'm like, oh, go away. Mm-hmm. She does eventually like get out of his like grasp and leave, but he was like so close to her. He's so in her face. I hated it.
Yeah, I liked her line there where she was like, oh, you've stated that you don't want to influence the past, and I'm feeling a tiny bit influenced.
Yeah,
like
honestly, they Dr. C and Troy are champs in this because I don't know. This man is terrible. Mm-hmm. Okay, so back on the bridge, Worf is detecting 2 major earthquakes from the planet, and then there's also volcanic action. So Geordi's still on the planet, and he says like these earthquakes would be a 8.5 on the Richter scale. Then there's more eruptions, so like that's pretty intense. Mm-hmm. I've been through a 6 on the Richter scale. And that was a journey. Mm-hmm. That was a ride. A literal ride. I was on a bed with wheels and it moved across like a bit from the wall. I was in Peru because we don't get that kind of thing here. But anyways, okay. So more eruptions. Geordi is actually more concerned about the volcanic dust. Because in a matter of days, there will be no sunshine. The mantle is collapsing where the pressure was released. The phaser drilling points are where the shit is going down. So as it turns out, the planet not so stable as they thought.
Basically, like what the Enterprise did to try to help ended up fucking them over harder. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, then Berlinghoff goes into Data's room and shits on Data's taste in music. Data's playing 4 different, music, different, like,
Classical
not
pieces.
types of music. Yeah, he's playing 4 different pieces at once, which is like, it's Data's room. He can play his fucking music.
Yeah.
And this guy, Berlinghoff, is so fucking rude about it. And listen, God, this man's the fucking worst. So then Data's like, oh, actually, I can like listen up to like 150 pieces at once. But like 4 is good for concentration because I'm working on this thing with Jordy.
Well, he says like in order to like properly examine the aesthetic, I try to limit it to 10.
Yeah.
but I have 4 on because I really need to concentrate.
Yeah. Okay, so Berlinghoff says that there's not a lot of info about Dr. Soong that survived to the 26th century, so if Data could give him some schematics and shit. And Data's like, yeah, sure. Sweet, Data. Okay, so now they have a new plan. Okay, I literally wrote this exactly what they said in the episode because, I could not re-explain this. Okay, new plan. The motion of the dust created... Oh, this is when Picard's like, oh, there's good news and there's somebody... I forget who it is. Data says to Picard, there's good news and there's bad news. So this is both the good news and bad news. I'm going to read out. /solution. Okay. So motion of the dust particles have created a giant... a great deal of electrostatic energy in the atmosphere. With the modified phaser blast, they can create a shock front? What did I write? I don't know. They create a shock something that would encircle the planet and ionize the particles. The particles would then be converted into a high energy fat plasma, which shields could absorb and then redirect harmlessly into space. So they basically would turn the Enterprise into a lightning rod. So, but if the phaser discharges by as little as 0.06 terawatts, it could cause a cascading exothermal inversion. An ice age? Is that what it's? Or just like worse?
Even worse,
Yeah.
I think.
They would completely burn off the planet's atmosphere.
Yeah. Meaning
I just could have read the next line.
Yeah. It would blast off the planet's atmosphere, and that basically means it's uninhabitable by anything.
So I was thinking quite a bit about that conversation because I noticed that the wording choices were very strange because he kept saying that if our phaser damage is off by as little as 0.6 terawatts, and I'm just like, wait a minute, terawatts? That's 60 gigawatts. That's a lot of fucking power. That is like a really large margin of error.
Cool.
I mean, not when you're blasting off a whole planet's
I mean, yeah, but if you can't control your power output within 60 million watts of a what do you call it? Of a margin of error, that's a pretty fucking big. Like, do you know how many houses that can power? That can power cities.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
fair.
they just picked the wrong word.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically the options are do nothing and thousands die, do something and fuck up and millions die. Or you do it right and people live and yay. So Picard asks to speak to Berlinghoff, and I do not understand the point of this scene. I do not understand it because the whole thing is Picard talking in circles. Mm-hmm. Because Picard's like, I know that you can't tell me things, and with my own conscience, I can't ask for things. But if you could help me, but also don't tell me, but tell me. I'm like, who is this? Me? I'm like, this makes no sense. I don't understand this conversation. And Picard then says, well, Professor, perhaps I don't. This is the only time I'm like, yeah, Picard, tell him. Because up until this point, this makes no sense. Picard goes, well, Professor, perhaps I don't give a damn about your past because your past is my future. And as far as I'm concerned, it hasn't been written yet.
Like, if we're assuming that Rasmussen is being honest for a second, like let's assume that he's not a con artist and whatnot, I think the discussion actually works because, like, Picard's argument is, well, I have to try to convince you because this is something that is at my disposal. This is something I have control over, technically. But Rasmussen can't. Like, his first argument that I can't do that because this is part of my past and I can't change that is accurate. And all he can really do is keep repeating that. And it's interesting because when you get to the very end of the scene, when he finally says that, I can't help you, I'm sorry, that moment is technically the veil dropping. You can hear a little bit of honesty in his voice there. He actually can't help because he doesn't know. And he does feel bad about it.
Oh, Picard kind of just, his back and forth of like, well, you can't, like, I can't ask, but you can't tell me, but maybe tell me, but also don't tell me, but also tell me and help me and all this.
Because he's conflicted.
Yeah, I know, but I don't like it.
Okay.
It felt like a useless conversation to me because nothing changes. Because then where are we? Okay, so then Riker's like, hey, the electrostatic conditions are as good as they're going to get, so this is when we're going to do it. So somehow that argument made Picard decide, listen, we're going to YOLO and we're going to try the phaser. And I'm like thinking, like, as if Picard was going to freaking do anything else. Of course he was going to do the phaser because he's just going to sit and let nothing happen. No, of course not. We knew this was going to happen. So Geordi then requests actually to stay on the planet. He feels like he can do more from there. They get the deflector dish. It's been reconfigured. Okay, this was actually interesting to watch. Not gonna lie, I forgot what the plan was when this happened. And I was like, partway through this. Okay, so they start firing at this one spot with like the bottom bit of the ship. Listen, I don't know what anything's called. Are we surprised? No. They start firing with like one bit at the bottom, and then they do like a shot from like the top of the ship, and then all of a sudden then the planet turns red, and I was like, oh, I was like, okay, maybe that worked. But then when it started to turn blue, I was like, oh no, what does this mean? I forgot about what the plan was. Mm-hmm. And as it was like then when okay, so then like the planet turns blue, and the Enterprise starts like sucking it out of the planet, and I was like, oh yeah, okay. So the Enterprise turns away, and they basically spit out the blue stuff into space, and like, yay, they did it. Geordi's like, success. Things are going back to normal on the planet. And then Berlinghoff, who's been in like the bridge, he's just like, well, all's well that ends well. Bye.
Yeah.
And then, but then he's like, oh, but also Riker, you're taller in person. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So then, cut to the shuttle bay where the Berlinghoff's vessel is. And they're all there. And he's like, oh, you guys all came to, like, see me off. Great, cool. And they're like, actually, a bunch of shit went missing, and we want it back. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is ridiculous. I got to go. And they're like, nope. You have our shit. We want it back. And so then he finally decides to let Data check. I think Picard says something on the lines of like, because like, so Data will just like go look for what is required to be looking for and not look at other shit that could like affect future or whatever. So, but of course, so they go in the ship, you have to open it through like hand scan, whatever. Okay, so we go in, the entire thing looks like it's been like just like wallpapered with like holographic paper. It's an interesting look. I mean, they really it's funny, they really wanted to be like, this is a future thing, so look how holographic it is.
Yeah,
because future equals holographic. Okay, so then we learn Dun dun dun. Plot twist. No, it's not. I hate this man so much. This bitch is from the 22nd century, and someone from the 26th century showed up in his time, and I'm assuming he killed him, and then he just like took his shit. I don't remember if they actually say what happened to the guy.
That's the implication, but they don't flat out say that he killed him.
Yeah, but he took his shit, took his clothes. So the 26th century man is the real granola cult person.
Yeah.
And then so the ship is the 26th century, but he's not. So then they find all the stuff that he stole. Data sees all the stuff that he stole, and basically, I kind of like got the thing of what he's trying to do, like 2 minutes before they said it.
Yeah.
So I was like, look at me figuring shit out, because I was like, why is he taking all the stuff that people like the most? So like he's going to take that shit so he can pretend invent it a year from now. So then I guess he can like either make money or become famous, etc. And so he also thinks he's going to take Data with, because like Data is a pretty special guy. Mm-hmm. And they are set in 2 minutes to go to a place called New Jersey. And I'm like, honestly, serves you right.
Yeah.
You that makes sense.
It's a fate worse than death, ending up in New Jersey.
Yeah. God. Ugh, New Jersey. Okay. So then, but then they're like, hey, you gotta go out. So, Data's like, do you need to be unconscious for like, to like get in or out of the ship or whatever? And he's like, what? And he's like, your handprint thing. So anyways, Data and Berlinghoff get out of the ship. Yeah. And, he's like, Picard, listen, it's cool. Let me go. And like, we'll forget about everything. And they're like, are you stupid? Like, this isn't,
are you actually stupid?
You're an asshole. And, so they were like, so the sensors could not see inside the ship previously, but once they opened the door, they could see what was going on inside and deactivate all the stuff. Because, in the ship, Berlinghoff tries to like use the phaser on Data.
It'd be really nice if that particular plot point had been used or would be used at any other point in the series. But people have stolen people's phasers on that ship before and gotten away with it.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, I have to get on the ship. It's like leaving. I don't belong here. And then the ship leaves. Like the 26th century ship leaves, and I'm like, I feel like this is a you problem now.
Yeah,
you don't belong here.
Because he set it to automatic.
Yeah. So I'm like, this feels like a problem for you.
Yeah.
Nobody asked you to come here. You chose to come here and cause a bunch of shit. So then Picard's like, well, I guess we'll drop you off at another base, and I'm sure people would be interested to speak to somebody from, our own historians, to speak to someone from the 22nd century.
Yeah, you can fill out your own questionnaire.
Yeah.
They don't say that, but that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I'm just like, this is, like, honestly, a little trippy, though, that now this guy is, like, stuck years in the future, but like also this man can fuck right off.
Yeah.
I hated him so much.
So bit of background, interesting background to this episode. The first thing that I'd like to note is that this was Rick Berman's second and final attempt at writing a script for TNG. Rick Berman is the lead producer of the Trek the Trek franchise up until 2004, and the contribution is obviously not great. He had an interesting idea for it. Unfortunately, they were kind of shot with what the idea was originally written for. This episode was written with a particular actor in mind who was a big Star Trek fan, and they had been looking for a way to work with him for a while, and they thought they finally had stuff ready. The original person who was meant to play Berlinghoff Rasmussen was Robin Williams.
Oh, wild.
That makes a lot of sense.
Robin Williams, yeah. He had to back out at the last minute. His wife was 8.5 months pregnant. He had just finished filming Hook. He didn't really have the time to do it right then and there when they were shooting, and so it just didn't fall into place. But they had already gone this far with producing the episode. They weren't ready to swap it with another one, so they went ahead with a different actor instead.
Yeah, this would have worked a lot better with Robin Williams, I think.
I think so too. I think thinking of it as as an imaginative piece of like speculative Trek history, imagining it with Robin Williams playing the part is just so much more interesting. And it would have been such a strange casting choice, but I think it would have made a really unique episode.
Yeah, and I think Robin Williams can pull off the annoying but charming a lot better.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been so creepy.
Yeah, Matt Frewer definitely almost never pulls off the charming part, unfortunately.
And I'm sure, like, that guy's a fine actor, but I know Robin Williams is specifically, like, good at improvisation and stuff, so I'm sure he would have added a lot of his own stuff to
I expect that
that episode.
They probably counted on that to an extent.
Yeah.
I think he also would have made the character more likable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Robin Williams would have definitely made this character far more likable.
Yes. And it's too bad because, like, I like Matt Frewer. I've seen him in quite a few things. I have these childhood memories of my mom watching this terrible show that I mentioned earlier, Sci Factor, growing up. And so I saw him quite a bit. He was one of those, like, that guy Canadian actors that I would see every now and then. I was like, oh, it's him. Oh, it's him again. And, you know, that sort of thing. And, like, he's very rarely ever playing big parts. But having him in a Star Trek episode was really interesting to me. But similarly, when I was young, I didn't like this episode much either because he's irritating. And normally he's written into a part where that's either endearing or it's well balanced by the other characters that are there. So, for instance, he plays a bit part in Watchmen where he's similarly irritating. He's not in it all that often. I think he only has like 2-3 scenes at the most. And he's playing a former supervillain who's actually kind of like a pathetic loser. And so it works. The way that he acts tends to fit that. And because the world of Watchmen is so absolutely ridiculous, this was the film that Zack Snyder made, by the way. Because the world of Watchmen is so like ridiculous because it's basically normal except for all of these larger than life super characters, it was he fit into it. But here in specifically the most grounded of the Star Trek series, I don't want him there.
Yeah, I think that might be what the character's missing in terms of like working for that actor is a little bit of being pathetic.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that because he doesn't come off as somebody who is recognizably pathetic until he fails at the end.
Yeah, he's just a fucking con artist. He's not like, there's nothing sympathetic about him at all. That's right. Mm-hmm. I guess maybe that's it. Like not being pathetic, but having some kind of sympathetic quality, which this guy does not have.
No, not even slightly. It's not even necessarily just his acting that does it. Like he's written to not be sympathetic in any way.
Yeah, like he's very purposefully like. To a little bit of credit to this episode, like this character is supposed to be annoying. Like you're supposed to not trust him. He's supposed to feel like he's getting in the way. He's supposed to like just rub you the wrong way. But I think they overdid it. Like, it's like, yeah, you did too good a job of making this guy annoying. Is kind of how I feel.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, and I always skip this episode because I just find it boring.
Yeah, me too. What'd you think of Berlinghoff Rasmussen, huh? What'd you think, Dory? Do you love him? Do you want to see him next episode and the one after that and the one after that?
You couldn't tell by the amount of time I say I hate this guy.
Yeah.
Are you ready
My recap?
for the Berlinghoff Rasmussen arc throughout Star Trek?
Are you joking?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I get so angry to see this guy again.
You never see him again. He's a one-off character.
Good. And I hope I never, after we finish recording, I hope I never think of him again.
I did mark down the scene that he has with Troy in sickbay where he says, "You don't like me very much, do you?" And I'm just like, oh, finally, speaking with the voice of the audience.
Yeah. I did really enjoy how Troy was onto him from the start. Like, not that she
Yes.
necessarily knew specifically that he was, like, conning them, but she's like, something's off about this guy. Really off. Mm-hmm. And, like, everyone else seemed a little too eager at first. Like, eventually people were like, something's up with this guy. But a lot of people were kind of eager at first.
Mm-hmm.
Which, man, sometimes the Enterprise crew is just really naive.
It's interesting because this episode actually serves as some of the basis for Star Trek Enterprise, which came, 9 years after this, 8 years after this, something like that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because he's establishing things that exist and the way things are in the 22nd century, and they generally stick to that in Enterprise.
Yeah. Because, Dory, you've probably figured out by now, but Enterprise is a prequel. So it's set during the time right after humans discover warp technology.
Well, not right after. It's
not
it takes
right,
place
but like pretty close. Like
it takes place about 50, 60 years later, I think.
Yeah, when they're first starting to like, because they've had warp technology, but now they're actually starting to actually explore space, like properly, like beyond the solar system.
Because the thing about the thing about warp technology is when you're at like warp 1, warp 2, you're really not going very far, very fast.
Yeah.
You can get to like the immediate area around you, but once you start hitting that middle mark there, because the warp scale is
exponential.
God, what do you call scales that it's growing exponentially? Yeah. Yeah, so every warp factor is like double the speed of the previous one. So once you get up to like warp 5, warp 6, you are multiplying warp 1 by like, 10 times or something like that.
Yeah. So it's during the time period where I guess they're starting to travel at like multiple warp. Not just speed of light.
Specifically the Enterprise NX-01, the main ship of the series, its inaugural I was about to say flight, but I don't know. It's an inaugural journey, and it is the first warp 5 capable starship.
Ah.
Though I think it technically can't actually reach warp 5. It gets to like 4.8 or 4.9 or something, but that's still fast.
I actually did not know that was a prequel.
Yeah.
I know that the theme song is stupid, and I know that it stars Scott Bakula.
Yep.
But I did not know it was a prequel.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, finding this information out is something that would eventually come to you, but I mean, it's been a long road, so.
Yeah. Getting from there to here.
Exactly. I'm so sorry. I can't help myself when it comes to that fucking theme.
Yeah. Oh, there's a great clip I saw where it's like someone was using it as an example of like when the cold open is just like such a different tone to the theme song. And it was like an episode of Enterprise where it's like they're in the middle of a disaster and they're in sick bay and it's like he's dying, like what's going on, and it's all chaos, and then it just like goes to the fucking theme song and it's like it's been a long road. It's so stupid.
Oh, that is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, that once happened with a bit of Canadiana for y'all. One of the most memorable intros in Degrassi history for that, and I'm talking about the original Degrassi. And I can't remember if it's Degrassi Junior High or Degrassi High, but for those who don't know, Degrassi High was like this weird fucking trip of... so the original series was in the 80s, and it's this weird trip of like being super cheesy, but also dealing with like dead serious topics.
Yup.
It was very famous for that, for dealing with like these very serious topics. So
Quite respectfully too.
They
Yes.
do that in the next Degrassi Next Generation also.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard that was a pretty good series. I didn't end up watching it, but
I watched it a lot growing up.
Aw.
It's a ride.
yeah, I watched like the first couple seasons. Then I just kind of lost interest. But there's one episode in the original one where the topic of the episode is like child physical abuse. So the kid is getting beaten up by his dad, and then it freeze frames and goes into the fucking theme song. So it's like, you know, he's getting beaten up by his dad, and then all of a sudden it's like and it's like, oh my god, what fucking emotional whiplash. And like that shit happened all the time, like, but most of the time it was the end credits, because the episode would end on like some bummer note, and then like the super cheery theme song would come in. That show's a fucking trip, man. It's great. Apparently, the legend goes that an American network wanted to buy the show, but they refused to sell it to them, and then they created Beverly Hills 90210
oh,
instead
interesting.
of Degrassi.
I mean, technically, there's a story similar to that about DS9.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know if you know about the history of that one. So, Dory, DS9 was kind of it was kind of a weird thing in Star Trek history, because they were making their first series without Gene Roddenberry involved, and they decided to set it on a space station instead of on a traveling starship. And the original idea for the series is that, well, this would be a space station out on the frontier, so you would get lots of people coming to them. But because of this, you would be able to play with repeat characters more often because they're in a stationary place. So it makes more sense for them to be in a place where you would get the same people coming by every now and then. And the premise of it was apparently shopped around a little bit by somebody else. A man named J. Michael Straczynski, for a series that he was creating called Babylon 5, which similarly took place on a space station. And
Yeah,
after
there's kind of a lot of like conspiracy theories about like whether like DS9's just a ripoff of Babylon 5 and
yeah,
stuff.
because he did try to shop it to Paramount, and Paramount was like, "No, we're not really interested." And then a year and a half later, they've got DS9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it seemed like it could be related, but also the two series are quite different by the time they get a year in. So it's okay.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem like that far-fetched that you could independently come up with like, oh, how about our space show is set on a space station?
There are other similarities, specifically
Yeah.
regards to like species and religion, but they're also the kind of things that Star Trek has explored to an extent before. So like, I don't know how much I'm willing to give them on that. I personally don't think that it was like flat out a ripoff, but I could see inspiration from that pitch making its way into the show that was already
for
under
sure.
development.
Yeah, they definitely at least eventually became very different things from each other.
It did not take long for that to happen.
Yeah. Anyway, this episode.
Yes. There's less to say
sucks.
about this episode.
Yeah, I think, like, does anyone have anything else they want to talk about with this?
Not really. Like it's kind of meant to be like a lighthearted comedy episode for the most part, which is weird because it's dealing with the topic of a disaster that could kill millions of people. Oops. But you know, that's hilarious.
It's also weird because it made me super angry. So
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. So
yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about this episode. It made me angry. I hate that guy. Yes.
rest in pieces.
All right. So let's move on to favorite moments and lines.
Oof.
Uh,
Oh, I like the convo where
think I
Troy
have
tells
a
him
favorite.
off. You don't like me very much, do you?
I don't think I even have a favorite part of this episode.
You don't even like
I
Data
just
listening to 4
wanted-
pieces of music at once?
No, I wanted this episode to end.
Oh, that's fair.
I do kind of like that bit. I think that's my favorite.
Okay.
Like I have 2 little mini favorites. Like one is when Dr. Crusher is like, and I'm feeling a tad bit influenced when she's like trying to like turn down, like when he's hitting on her and she's like get the fuck away from me. And then also Data listening to 4 pieces of music at once.
Okay. I did think of something I liked. I like that Worf hates questionnaires, and Worf just like unsolicitedly, like he just like says that his favorite, like the most important example of progress in the last 200 years of phasers. Oh, Worf. And that's it. Yeah, I did not care for this episode.
All right.
I'm hoping it like evaporates from my head and I never have to think about it again.
Yeah. Until the retrospective.
Nope, there's nothing in this episode that would be in the retrospective.
Well, when we do the prediction reviews.
Oh, fuck.
All right. Jeff, you said yours already,
Yep,
right?
that's right.
Okay. So we'll move on to predictions for the next episode. Okay, the next episode is called New Ground. And it's a Worf episode.
Ooh.
And Worf gets a visit from Alexander.
Oh my god. Oh, I like that. Wait, okay. Oh, is Worf's parents there? Do they bring Alexander, or does Worf go somewhere and meets up with Alexander? I hope it's Worf's parents. I hope it's Alexander. Okay, this is so obviously not going to be what it is, but hear me out. I could do with a nice, fun episode. It's Alexander's birthday. And Worf gets him a great, fun present that's probably not appropriate for a little kid, but listen, Worf's gotta do what Worf's gotta do. But he goes to visit Worf at his parents' house because I so badly want to see his parents again. And he goes to Alexander's birthday party. And there's like other children there. But yeah, like Worf gives Alexander a weapon, and the kid's parents are like, and Worf's like, it's okay, I know how to use it. Like, I don't think that's the problem, Worf. So my prediction is that Worf goes to Alexander's birthday party.
Alrighty. Well, if you'd like to see if Dory's correct, watch along with us and join us for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.